Hi everyone, Zura here. In this video, I want to show you games that I played in a classical tournament over this past weekend, Saturday, August 3rd, 2024. Now, I played 4 rounds, game 60, that means 60 minutes, plus 10 seconds delay. You may ask, what is the delay? Well, delay is the time control when after making a move, clock starts going after how much of a delay you had. So we had 10 seconds basically when you make a move, clock starts going after 10 seconds. All right. Now this is slightly different than increment. Increment is when you get time added on your clock. Most tournaments are played with increment. However, delay is quite popular in United States, and I believe the reason for it is due to having a lot of games played in one day. Delay gives you clear idea when tournament is going to finish. So for time convenience reasons, I believe a lot of organizers, tournament organizers, are using delay time controls. I do not like it. I would much rather play increment when you know exactly how much time you're getting on the clock. But it is what it is. Now, let's jump without further ado into the games and see what happened. Now, I'm gonna try to go with these games in an efficient manner here. So let's jump right into the first game. Now, in the first game, I played an opponent rated around 2000, I think a little under 2000, higher 1900s, 1970 or so. His name is Shaoria. He starts with e4. I respond back with e5. Knight goes to f3, and I decided to respond to it with the standard knight to c6. Knight goes to c3. We have 4 knights on the board, knight to f6, and here opponent goes for a sideline, bishop to e2. Now, I'm not a big fan of this move from white side. I think it basically wastes his time, but a lot of moves have been tried in this position. For example, a3, one of them being the notable sideline here. However, my opponent came up with bishop e2. Basically, white develops bishop in a quite passive way here, but asking black, what are you going to do with your tempo? Now, bishop c5 would be a logical move here. However, it falls for knight takes e5 immediately, and then if black captures it back on e5, white will play d4, forking this knight and the bishop, and as a result, white will get a very comfortable center. Now, there's apparently a bunch of games played in this position. For example, bishop d6 takes, bishop takes e5. One of the most notable ones to me was Grishchuk versus Ponomarev, Ruslan Ponomarev. I'm surprised Ponomarev went for bishop c5, to be honest, former world champion. And the strong move here for white apparently is knight to b5. So black in this position wants to capture this knight on c3 and then win the pawn on e4, also ruin white's pawn structure because they will have to capture back with the pawn, right? So white moves the knight away, and now the problem for black is, where does this dark square bishop go? White wants to go f4, and this bishop is basically trapped. Well, it can go to d6, but it's gonna ruin the pawn structure and a lot of things in the black's position here. And knight e4 is not a possibility because this classical trick in these positions when two pieces are unprotected, queen to d5, attacking both and winning one of them on the next move. All right. Apparently, that Grishchuk Ponomarev game continued with short castle, then f4 attacking this bishop, and black may be thinking here that, oh, but what if I take knight takes e4 the pawn? Then if you were to capture the bishop here, there will be queen h4 check, and black is actually having some counterplay basically. But the trick is after knight takes e4, there is still queen to d5. And problem being that after queen h4 check, white can simply play g3. And if you do take knight takes g3, h takes g3, and this rook on h1 is protected with the queen. And if you do capture on g3, white will simply move the king away. All right, so few trickeries there. I was not aware of these trickeries, but I still didn't want to go bishop c5, knowing that my opponent probably had a better idea of what's going on here if they chose to play bishop e2. So I decided to force the matters in the center with d5, e takes d5, knight takes d5, then knight captures back on, nope, actually he goes, I capture knight takes d5, and he goes bishop to b5, pinning my knight and attacking the pawn on e5. I take on c3, b takes c3, bishop goes to d6 to defend my central pawn. He goes short castle, I go short castle, d4, e4, c4, and we have ourselves 4 knights on the board with reversed colors. Now, what do I mean by reversed colors? So if white was to go d4 here, e takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop goes to b5, knight takes c6, pawn takes c6 here, bishop to d3, probably what black plays here, d5, e takes d5, c takes d5, short castle, for example, bishop g5, c6, and this would be standard for knights. All right, so we got into the similar position here, but with reversed colors. All right, after c takes d4, I go bishop g4, and he plays c3 to defend this d4 pawn. Now, I chose to continue with h6 here. Idea of h6 is to take prophylactic measures against bishop g5. For example, if I do play queen f6 here, and he continues with h3, in case I did not want to capture on f3 here and I decide to go back, he may have this little trick, g4, bishop g6, bishop goes to g5, and suddenly my queen is very uncomfortable. If it goes to e6, there will be d5 and I'm going to lose a piece, and other than that, I have no squares. So I've been aware of this trick since I won few games actually with the other colors, basically, when I played these positions with black. I chose to continue with h6. He plays rook e1, and then I develop my queen on f6. Now, he plays h3. Here, if I did take on f3, which is probably most standard way to continue, white takes back with the queen, queen takes f3, g takes f3, and this is the standard endgame for 4 knights. Basically, one side has a bishop pair, other side has bishop and a knight, but superior pawn structure due to these double pawns on the f file. However, again, having played this with the other side, I don't think this is a big deal. A lot of times when black contends here for the e file, white will play rook e4, and f5 I think weakens king's position in light squares. So position is about equal, basically, with chances for both sides. So I did not want to take on f3, so decided to maintain the pressure with bishop h5. He goes bishop to e2, rook to f e8, bishop e3, and I bring now my knight into the game. So all my pieces, more or less, except this rook yet, has been brought into the game. Only this knight right now is not doing much. So time to bring that knight into the game. Knight e7, headed to d5, or f5 here, attacking the bishop on e3. It goes knight to d2 to simplify the position a little bit, which makes a lot of sense. I trade light square, bishop, queen takes e2, knight goes to d5, attacking bishop and the pawn. It goes queen d3, and here I actually spent some time thinking about the position, and I decided to play rook e6. The other candidate move I was thinking was rook a to d8. Apparently computer likes this move more. It makes sense bringing the rook onto the open file here, semi-open file. During the game I was thinking, but okay, what if white also brings the rook to d1? Apparently there is a powerful move, then b5, stopping c4. It's exactly what I was thinking, that how do I stop c4 next? And apparently that's the way to go, b5, and queen b5 is not a possibility because I can take on c3 and I will be forking queen and the rook. So rook goes to e6, he goes c4, and I could have taken on e3 immediately or go knight f4. I think in both cases here, bishop and knight gets traded. Bishop takes f4, bishop takes f4, g3. I could tell that this was probably slight inaccuracy during the game. Knight to f3 makes a lot more sense here. Asking the question, what is that bishop going to do? Well, most likely I would probably have to play rook a to e8. He takes on e6, queen takes e6, and when he plays g3, I would probably have to move the bishop back. Or if he plays something like c5, I'll probably play c6 and then move this bishop back. In the worst case, I can also move this bishop to g5, so maybe I can even start with b6. It goes g3, I take on d2, queen takes d2, rook a to e8. Now, the case here is that if you do take on e6, I have a double attack on these two pawns, h3 and c4, and also black controls the e file. So, not a big deal, but black should be just a tiny bit better, although with accurate play, 100%, white should be able to hold this position. He goes d5. Now, obviously, I'm not going to trade everything. I'm going to try to keep at least one rook on the board and play rook e4. And here, for some reason, opponent decides to gift me the game. Basically, as you can see, position is very much close to equal. Probably white will have to play something like rook a to c1 to defend this pawn. And I was going to play probably queen to f3. At least that's what I was thinking here. But wow, apparently this is not good, because if I do that, queen a5, and suddenly white will win a pawn here, one of those pawns, c7 or a7. So I should play b6 apparently first, and then takes, rook to e1. Oh boy, this does look very drawish, okay? I cannot take on c4 because you'll have check, and then queen d3, and I'm gonna lose a rook, all right? So it would be headed towards equality here, but on rook e4, I got a gift. Rook captures e4. Pause the video if you don't see why that is the blunder. The reason why that is the blunder is queen takes a1, intermediate check, capturing one rook first, and you have to move the king, and then I'll capture the other rook. So I'm gonna end up rook up. As soon as he captured rook e4, he had the reaction, oh my god. So players around started laughing kind of, but very unfortunate blunder from the opponent. Cool, that was game one.